Imagine your house has a lock on the front door, a good lock. Everyone who has ever looked at it, locksmiths, security experts, your neighbors, has said it looks solid. You have lived there for 27 years and never had a problem. Then one day a new set of eyes looks at the lock, not human eyes, an AI. And within a few minutes, it finds something nobody ever noticed, a tiny flaw in the mechanism. A weakness so small and so well hidden that it survived 27 years of human inspection. And through that tiny flaw, someone who knew about it could walk straight in. That is not a metaphor. That is exactly what happened. And today I'm going to tell you the full story. What was found, who found it, and what the biggest companies in the world are doing about it right now. Stay with me. Before we get to the AI, I want to explain something that most people do not think about. Every piece of software in the world, your phone, your bank's website, and the systems running your hospital, the code keeping the power grid on, was written by humans. And humans make mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes are small, a typo, a button that does not work, annoying, but harmless. But sometimes those mistakes are much more serious. A flaw in the code so deep that if someone found it, they could get inside the system, steal data, shut things down, take control. These flaws are called vulnerabilities. And here's the scary part, most of them are invisible. They're not sitting there with a warning sign, they're hidden inside millions of lines of code, and finding them has always required an enormous amount of skill and time. So most of them just sit there quietly for years, sometimes for decades, waiting for someone to find them. And for a long time, the race was roughly equal. The people looking for these flaws, security experts, hackers, researchers, were doing the same thing as the people trying to fix them. Both sides were human, both sides had limits. But something changed recently, and it changed very fast. The thing that changed is the reason 12 of the most powerful companies on earth just announced an emergency collaboration. And I will tell you exactly what they found and what they're doing about it right after this. Anthropic, the company that makes Claude, the AI tool many of you already use, has been working on a new model, a much more powerful one. They have not released it to the public. They're calling it Claude Mythos. And before deciding what to do with it, they pointed it at something specific. They told it to look for vulnerabilities, hidden flaws in the world's most important software, the kind of software that runs hospitals, banks, power grids, the internet itself. And what happened next is what caused 12 of the biggest companies on earth to pick up the phone. The AI found thousands of them, not in old, forgotten software that nobody uses, in every major operating system, in every major web browser, the programs that billions of people use every single day. And then it found three specific ones that I want to tell you about because they're the clearest way to understand just how significant this is. The first one was in a piece of software called OpenBSD. OpenBSD runs firewalls, the digital walls that protect computer networks from outside attacks. It has a reputation as one of the most secure operating systems ever built. Security experts have been checking it for years. Automated testing tools that Automating testing tools have run millions of tests on it, and hidden inside for 27 years was a flaw that would let an attacker crush any machine running it just by connecting to it from anywhere in the world remotely. No physical access needed. The AI found it in a matter of hours. The second one was in a piece of software called FMMPEG. You have probably never heard of it, but you use it constantly. It's the tool that handles video on almost every platform on earth. When you watch a video on your phone, when you're Steam something on your laptop, FFmpeg is usually involved somewhere in that process. The flaw that Claude Mythos found in FFmpeg was hidden in a single line of code. Automated tools had tested the exact line 5 million times. 5 million and never caught it. The AI found it. The third one was in the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel is the foundation that runs most of the world's servers. When you use the internet, when you send an email, load a web page, watch a video, there's a very good chance a server running Linux is involved somewhere. The AI found not just one flaw, but a series of them, and it figured out how to chain them together, use them in sequence, to go from being an ordinary user of a computer to having complete control of it. The AI did not need a human to guide it through each step. It found the flaws on its own. It developed the methods to use them on its own. It worked faster than any human team could, and it did not get tired, did not get distracted, and it did not miss things because it was having a bad day. All three of those vulnerabilities have now been patched, fixed. The companies responsible for the software were told immediately, and they fixed them. So those specific holes are now closed. But the bigger question, the one that caused this emergency, is this: how many more are there? And what happens when the wrong people get this kind of technology? This is where the story gets interesting because Anthropic's response to what they found was not to keep it quiet, and it was not to use it for themselves. It was to sound an alarm. They called it Project Glasswing. They brought together 12 organizations to do something about this together: Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Nvidia, Cisco, JP Morgan Chase, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, Broadcom, the Linux Foundation, and Anthropic itself. Think about this list for a moment. These are companies that compete with each other every single day. In cloud computing, in software, in cybersecurity, they do not usually sit in the same room and agree on things, but they all looked at what Claude Mythos could do and reached the same conclusion. This is too important to handle alone. The idea behind Project Glasswing is straightforward. The same AI that can find these vulnerabilities can also fix them. So rather than waiting for attackers to get access to this kind of technology, you use it first. You scan your own systems. You find the holes before anyone else. You patch them. And then you share what you learn so everyone benefits. Anthropic is committing $100 million in computing access so that these companies and more than 40 other organizations that maintain critical software can use Claude Mythos for defensive work. They're also donating $4 million directly to open source security projects. The people who maintain the free shared software that most of the internet runs on and who have historically had almost no budget for security are getting direct support. One more detail worth knowing: Claude Mythos is not going to be released to the public. Anthropic made that decision deliberately. The model is too powerful and the risks too serious to just put it out there, but the plan is to use what they learn from this project to build better safeguards so that eventually a version of these capabilities can be deployed safely for everyone. I want to end this episode by saying something that might surprise you. This is a good news story, not because the problem is small, it's not. The vulnerabilities that AI can now find and exploit are real, and the potential for damage is serious. Cyber attacks already cost the world around $500 billion a year. That number is going up. But here's what gives me hope: the people who found the most powerful offensive tool in history of cybersecurity chose to use it defensively. They did not sit on it. They did not sell access to the highest bidder. They called the competitors, pulled them into a room, and said, "We need to fix this together before someone else uses this against all of us." That is not a small thing. That is actually quite rare in the history of powerful technologies. Most of the time, the people with the most powerful weapons try to use them for advantage. What happened here is different. The response to discovering something dangerous was, how do we protect people from it? The 27-year-old hole in OpenBSD is now patched. The flaw in FFmpeg that 5 million automated tests missed is now fixed. The chain of vulnerabilities in Linux kernel that could have given an attacker full control of a server, gone. Millions of people who use those systems every day are safer right now than they were a few weeks ago, and they will never know about it, which is exactly how good security is supposed to work. That is the story of Project Glasswing. An AI found the cracks, and a group of people decided to fix them before someone else could walk through. If this episode made you think, share it with someone. The more people understand what is actually happening with AI, the better the conversations we all get to have about it. Please also subscribe and give this video a like, and I'll see you next time.